Grace Lee Whitney was best known for playing Janice Rand on Star Trek, even though she appeared in only 8 episodes. Her sudden removal from the show back in 1966 wasn't about ratings or cutting costs. Something serious happened behind the scenes at Desilu Studios that no one talked about for decades. One night, a powerful executive called her in for a late meeting. What took place in that quiet, empty office was kept secret for 30 years. Just days later, she was unexpectedly fired from one of the biggest shows on TV. The truth behind it all would leave fans shocked and deeply saddened. It was a hidden story that changed lives forever. Grace's own story began just after midnight on April 1, 1930, in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Her birth name was Mary Ann Chase, and her life started with heartbreak. Her mother signed away her parental rights just 6 minutes after she was born and disappeared without even looking at the baby. There was no father's name on the birth record. Just silence. Within weeks, the infant was sent to Detroit as part of Michigan's foundling system. On June 19 of that same year, a couple in their 40s adopted her privately and gave her the name Grace Elaine Whitney. Her new mother celebrated the adoption with pink lemonade and a cake that read, "No fooling, she's ours." Grace later said that little joke made her smile and hurt at the same time. Being born on April Fool's Day made her feel like she was the punchline of a lifelong joke. She often said, "I'm living proof that April Fool's jokes can last 85 years. But inside, she felt like a mistake. At age 7, Grace's world changed again. On a quiet Sunday, while helping her adoptive mother in the kitchen, she was told that she had been adopted. Hearing the word real in reference to her birth mother hit her hard. She said it felt like the floor had vanished beneath her. That night, she ripped the lace off her favorite dress, angry and confused. From then on, her behavior shifted. She started sleepwalking. She collected and hid milk cartons from school. She stopped celebrating her birthday because she believed that guests always leave. Later in life, she said her hairstyle on Star Trek, tight and stiff, was like a helmet hiding the abandoned child she still felt like inside. Grace started drinking at 17. Every drink, she said, was her attempt to quiet the voice inside that felt unloved and left behind. But even as a teenager, she was already building a career most people could only dream of. In 1944, when she was just 14, she won a singing contest on Detroit's biggest radio station, WJR. She wore a borrowed dress and sang a classic jazz tune. The station's program director was so impressed that he hired her immediately. She earned $14 a week, which would be around $240 today. Her voice became so familiar that factory workers listening in the early morning hours nicknamed her Sunrise Sally. She became so popular that a department store even created a lipstick named after her, which sold out by Christmas. Her days were busy and exhausting. She'd sing live on the radio early in the morning, rush to school, and then return at night for rehearsals. She had drive, talent, and charm, but also deep pain she hid from the world. Grace Lee Whitney's life was more than just a role on Star Trek. It was a story of survival, secrets, and strength. One that reveals a side of Hollywood, and of herself, that few ever truly knew. Grace Lee Whitney barely slept during her teenage years, but she never complained. By the time she was 15, she was already paying her parents' mortgage. She even sent small donations to the orphanage where she had been as a baby, hoping to help the children who were still waiting to be adopted. At 18, she decided it was time to chase something bigger. She left Detroit with only $37 and a cardboard hatbox. She dropped Elaine from her name and became Lee Whitney, wanting to be seen as more than just another pretty girl. She started performing at Chicago's Blue Note Club, where she had the chance to share the stage with the legendary Billie Holiday. Holiday had been banned from performing in New York at the time because of drug charges, but her talent still shone. Billie was paid $1,000 a week. Grace earned just $55. She lived in a cheap boarding house and survived on hot dogs. Still, she was determined. She studied Billie Holiday's music non-stop and memorized her entire setlist in only 2 days. She also learned to sing well even after a few drinks, a habit that would later become something she relied on too much. Her efforts paid off. She joined a tour with Spike Jonze, performing 157 shows in 46 states in just 1 year. Every stop meant another shot of rye whiskey and a new lesson in how to survive in a tough industry. After that, she toured with Fred Waring and his famous choir, performing in 200 cities and traveling more than 25,000 miles in 9 months. Waring was strict but respectful. He enjoyed sherry after shows and insisted on proper behavior from everyone. Grace tried to follow the rules, but the endless traveling and regular drinking started to wear on her. One night she'd be performing in a formal choir, and the next she'd be backstage drinking just to calm her nerves. Through it all, she learned how to stay safe. Spike Jonze taught her to laugh before anyone else could laugh at her. Fred Waring protected her from aggressive men by simply placing a napkin over her hand at dinner. Still, there were always dangers. In one city, some musicians even placed bets on how quickly the new girl would give in to a kiss. Grace had to stay alert, constantly reading people and situations. She learned to trade her charm for safety and stayed cautious in every dressing room she entered. In 1952, she surprised everyone by enrolling in nursing school. She helped deliver babies, assisted with surgeries, and wore her nurse's uniform with pride. But when Spike Jonze called her with a job offer for a new television show, she had to choose. Being a nurse paid $180 a month. The show paid $250 a week, plus travel. She chose the showbiz life, leaving her uniform behind with a note that read, "Showbiz 1. Bloodless but loud." She kept smelling salts and bandages in her purse for years afterward, just in case. Grace's big break came in 1951 when she made her Broadway debut in Top Banana, playing the role of Miss Holland. The show opened at the Winter Garden Theatre on November 1st and ran for 350 performances until it closed in October 1952. Top Banana was written as a star vehicle for Phil Silvers, who later won a Tony Award for his role. Grace shared the stage with stars like Rose Marie and Jack Albertson. Before Broadway, she had been performing in nightclubs, opening for legends like Billie Holiday and Buddy Rich. Now, she had earned her place in the entertainment union, an important step that helped push her toward Hollywood. In 1954, Top Banana was adapted into a film by United Artists, and Grace was able to keep her role. The film, directed by Alfred E. Green, had a $150,000 budget and was originally shot in 3D. However, the studio released it in standard format. Most of the Broadway cast returned for the film, which was very unusual at the time. This marked Grace's first official film credit and her formal entry into Hollywood. But things didn't immediately take off. In the years that followed, Grace took on several small or uncredited roles in well-known films. One of them was the 1953 horror classic House of Wax, where she appeared as a background beauty during the height of the 3D movie craze. These early roles were often brief, but they helped build her resume and her determination to break through in a tough and often unfair industry. Grace Lee Whitney's biggest uncredited film role came in 1959's Some Like It Hot, where she played Rosella, one of the band members. She shared scenes with Marilyn Monroe, Jack Lemmon, and Tony Curtis, some of the biggest stars of the time. Even though she had lines and screen time, she didn't receive official credit, which was common back then, especially for women considered more for their looks than their acting. Grace once described herself as glamorous wallpaper, and sadly, that's how Hollywood often treated women like her in the 1950s. Her early film work included several uncredited roles: The Texan Meets Calamity Jane, 1950, House of Wax, 1953, Top Banana, 1954, The Naked and the Dead, 1958, and Pocket Full of Miracles, 1961. These roles may have looked good on screen, but they didn't do much to push her career forward. Despite that, Grace kept going. She appeared in more than 80 live television shows during this time, including popular programs like You Bet Your Life with Groucho Marx, The Red Skelton Show, The Jimmy Durante Show, and The Ernie Kovacs Show between 1957 and 1958. She also made regular appearances as a visual assistant on Queen for a Day. She was often seen on screen, but rarely got a chance to speak. By the late 1950s and into the early 1960s, Grace had become a familiar face on television. Her first dramatic role came in Cowboy G-Men in 1953. She went on to appear in over 100 episodes of major TV series including The Real McCoys, Wagon Train, Gunsmoke, The Rifleman, Bat Masterson, 77 Sunset Strip, Bewitched, Batman, and The Untouchables. These weren't just background parts, she played actual characters. On Mike Hammer in 1958, she played Tempest Flame. On Hawaiian Eye, she played Marcia Vale. Her appearance with Groucho Marx in 1953 also showed that she had quick wit and sharp timing. Her big break finally came in early 1966 when Gene Roddenberry was casting a new science fiction series called Star Trek. Grace had worked with Roddenberry before on a pilot for a show called Police Story, and that connection helped her land an audition. Roddenberry wanted someone who looked strong but also had warmth, someone who could be professional but still emotionally real. Grace fit the role perfectly. She had nursing experience, live performance skills, and a background in music with legends like Billie Holiday and Fred Waring. She was cast as Yeoman Janice Rand, Captain Kirk's assistant aboard the USS Enterprise. Grace's contract was for 13 episodes, but she only appeared in 8 before being let go. She had strong roles in episodes like Charlie X, Miri, and The Enemy Within. In Charlie X, her character became the object of obsession for a teenage boy with dangerous powers. In The Enemy Within, she had to resist a dark and violent version of Captain Kirk. Her final appearance came not long after Star Trek first premiered in September 1966. NBC had spent $190,000 per episode, making it the most expensive show on TV at that time, but they still decided to cut her character. Roddenberry had originally written Janice Rand to be more than just a pretty assistant. She was meant to show both professionalism and genuine human emotion. The subtle connection between her and Captain Kirk was part of that plan from the start. But NBC executives didn't like the idea. They believed that if Kirk seemed emotionally involved with a regular crew member, it would make him less available for romantic plotlines with guest stars. They thought that might turn off female viewers. So they removed Grace's character, despite her being popular with fans. But there was something else going on behind the scenes. Just 2 months into filming Star Trek in late 1966, Grace received an invitation from a senior executive at Desilu Productions. Since she had worked with Roddenberry before, it seemed like a normal follow-up. The meeting was set for late in the evening in an otherwise empty office building. It felt a bit strange, but not threatening. The executive had real power, and at that time actors, especially women, knew that pushing back could end their careers. When Grace Lee Whitney arrived at the meeting that night, she immediately sensed something was wrong. The man who invited her offered her a drink and spoke in a slick, overly casual way, what she would later call glib talk. It didn't feel like a conversation. It felt rehearsed, like part of a plan. This wasn't a professional meeting at all. It was a setup. Everything about it, the time, the empty office, his tone, was meant to disarm her. She quickly realized she was in danger. The situation wasn't just inappropriate. It was a trap. Hollywood's power wasn't only about casting decisions and contracts. It could turn violent. And that night it did. When Grace started to resist, the situation escalated fast. She wasn't just harassed. She was attacked. In her 1998 memoir, The Longest Trek, she described how that meeting turned into a violent assault that nearly killed her. It happened in an office on the Desilu Studios lot, the same place where she thought her career was taking off. She tried to fight back, but he became more aggressive. She was so terrified that she eventually stopped resisting, not because she agreed to what was happening, but because she was afraid for her life. What she thought was a chance to grow her career ended in trauma. That same night, she turned to someone she trusted, Leonard Nimoy. She confided in him, and he didn't treat it like gossip. He didn't ignore it or walk away. He stayed by her side. Over the years, Nimoy became her anchor. When Grace's life began to fall apart after being let go from Star Trek, Nimoy stayed close. She struggled deeply. She lost her job, battled addiction, and even became homeless. But Nimoy never gave up on her. He encouraged her to join Alcoholics Anonymous. He talked to her about faith.